saw that they just put 30 doubleheaders on the schedule to make up the games that they missed from the lockout. But, hey, we're going to forget about the lockout for now. We're going to talk baseball, Cardinals baseball, with Katie Wu, who covers the Cardinals for The Athletic, and always appreciate Katie's time. Katie, I know you just got to be happy to be in spring training with real baseball to cover, because for 99 days, it's like, have fun writing about what?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, It just, at the risk of being a walking cliche, there is just something so special about spring baseball, and I think the 99 gruesome days without really anything going on in the sport has made spring just a little bit more special this time around.
Absolutely. So I was about to say, it looked like the Cardinals haven't necessarily made any big moves like we've seen in this frenzy of trades and some free agent signings yet. And I don't know if I'd say that this is a major move or anything, but they signed an outfielder today. Corey Dickerson has signed a deal with the Cardinals. And, the outfield, young outfield, but this does add some experience to it. And the outfield play this year, and specifically I think the bats of Carlson and of Harrison Bader are pretty important for St. Louis to what I think they should do, which is contend with Milwaukee for that division crown.
Yeah, so the Corey Dickerson deal is on a one-year deal. It's not official yet. It's still pending a physical, but when it does pass, I think the expectation is that Corey Dickerson will come in and kind of balance out a young, but at this point, very experienced outfield, and then provide some roster fluidity. With new manager Ollie Marmol, when he took over the helm from Mike Schilt, it was expected that he would be a little bit more hands-on in playing the matchups and playing the platoons and playing splits than what we've seen from Cardinals teams in previous years. So I think the Corey Dickerson signing, while it admittedly wasn't on anyone's radar, really, and it does seem like a good signing, I think it provides a little bit more, like I said, roster fluidity and just more options for a Cardinals squad that, theoretically should be contending with Milwaukee if they can all stay healthy and pull the right pieces at the right time.
Well, you mentioned Marmol, and it feels like years ago that Mike Schilt was not retained and Ollie Marmol was hired as the manager. And I just wonder, what is the difference between the two? Marmol is a longtime Cardinal coach, and they still have longtime Cardinal guys on the coaching staff. Guys like Okendo and Willie McGee, and you got Pop Warner at third base and Stubby Clapp at first base. I mean, these are guys that are all steeped in the Cardinal way. So what's the difference between Mike Schilt and an Ollie Marmol?
I think that while Ollie and Mike Schilt had such a close relationship while Schilt was the manager, I think Ollie kind of brings his own style and his own dynamic to this clubhouse. Obviously, we haven't seen him manage a Major League game yet. We will see that in a spring way tomorrow when the Cardinals open against Houston here at Roger Dean Stadium. But what I think Ollie brings that is perhaps a little different is he understands the culture of this organization, obviously being a longtime coach here, but he also understands how to communicate. And he's a younger guy with a fresh voice and fresh ideas, and I think that is a strong suit for the Cardinals in this aspect alone. I mean, when we talk to Ollie just these 4 days since camp is open, he has really stressed the importance of honest conversations and having sometimes difficult but necessary conversations in that clubhouse to make sure the culture is that winning culture that he has come to know so well, being in this organization for as long as he has. So I think that's what makes Ollie different. I think he's a little bit more analytically minded than maybe managers prior. And I think above all, he knows how to have those conversations so that everyone's on the same page and there is no questioning, there is no second guessing. He's there every day, able to communicate. And I think that goes a long way, especially in this condensed spring when things are admittedly very hectic.
Yeah, and Katie, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the Cardinals staying healthy. What's the latest on their Cardinals pitcher, Jack Flaherty? What's going on with him and his shoulder situation?
So the Cardinals haven't released too much information about Jack Flaherty. They did say that they're supposed to be their rising ace this year. Did get a second opinion on his throwing shoulder. This is the same shoulder that he suffered a strain from in the last part of 2021, his second substantial injury of the 2021 season. The primary thing is that they aren't quite sure what this is. Remember, teams were prohibited from having any contact with their pitchers for nearly 100 days. So they weren't able to keep tabs on him during the offseason. They weren't able to kind of see where he was at, what he was dealing with. He couldn't have any access with the medical team. So I really do think they're just trying to be as cautionary as possible here. The last thing you want is one of your most prized players, not just in the rotation, but in the organization, being rushed when he's not ready or when you're not 100% sure. I think what they're doing here is just making sure they're checking all the boxes. Hopefully there is an update by tonight or tomorrow. But we did talk to Ollie today, and he says that they are preparing 2 separate tracks. They're preparing for a track moving forward with Jack Flaherty and one without. Obviously, they hope that it's the one with him.
Mm-hmm. And the Cardinals have had so many good names and so many great baseball players in that organization in the last few years that it feels like they've underperformed, like, at least the last 4 or 5 years. Because you got a Hall of Fame guy like Yadier Molina behind the plate. He's aging, but you get a Nolan Arenado, you get a few other guys that feel like big time names, and it just hasn't really all come together. What's going to be different this year from what we've seen in years past, where the talent is there, but the wins just haven't come the way they should have?
I think the biggest difference for the Cardinals team this season is that the talent, as said, has always been there, but now they have the experience. And I almost feel like the 2021 season was beneficial for them because for the first time in a long time, they've really underperformed their fan bases and their organization's lofty expectations. And with the Cardinals, that doesn't happen very often. They're usually a team that meets expectations, that plays good, clean baseball, and you had a whole bunch of talented guys just collectively not be able to click for the majority of the season. But I think what really sparked them was their September. I mean, we saw how good this team can be when things are clicking, when everyone is playing right, the potential that they have. Their defense has never really been a question. Their bats are improving if the starting pitching can stay healthy, and I know that's a big concern, not just for the Cardinals, but for teams in general. But I think that they know that they have the ability to win, and they have the ability to be a playoff team, and they have the experience now to learn what happens if those things start to falter, how to turn it around.
Well, I mean, there's going to be pressure to win in St. Louis no matter what because it's a baseball town, and the Cardinals are, they have been the preeminent organization in the National League for a long time now. I know the Dodgers have had it maybe for the last 10 years, but historically I think it's been St. Louis. There's a little bit more, I don't know if I'd say pressure to it now, but this is Yadi's last season. You got a few months to prepare for all the emotion of this Cardinal legend that will retire as a St. Louis Cardinal. But you got to win in his last year, right? I mean, that's pretty important for that legacy too.
No, I would agree. And, of course, Yadi isn't actually at camp yet. He's doing it for some personal reasons, but the Cardinals certainly hope he'll be here soon so he can get back to what it will be the end of a legacy career. But you can also say the same for Adam Wainwright. Though Wainwright obviously has not said if he plans to retire after the season or not. We can almost guarantee this is the last season of Yadi and Wainwright together, and I think that's just as important. But more importantly, I think this expectation for this organization that has been so close to winning for multiple seasons is to just do it now. I mean, the front office has had 2022 circled as prime year of contention for a while now, and it's finally here. Their top prospects are knocking at the door. They have their outfield that they envisioned that took a while to get. They have their third baseman of the future that they hope, and they have what they believe is a very solid starting pitching staff if they can stay healthy. So I really do think that the Cardinals think that 2022 is their year. The clubhouse certainly acts this way. And I know every team, all 30 teams, have optimism in spring, but for the Cardinals, I really think this is the year where they must win.
Real quick, you mentioned the starting pitching there, and so they signed Steven Matz, the left-hander from the Mets, in November before the lockdown occurred. But, Dakota Hudson, I remember watching Hudson pitch at Mississippi State, and he had a couple of pretty good years, his first 2 seasons for St. Louis, and obviously last year shut down. I feel like Dakota Hudson should be a major piece. If the Cardinals win the division this year, I think Dakota Hudson has had a big year too.
I would agree with you. Actually, when the Cardinals opened camp, I pegged Dakota Hudson as the breakout player of the year this season for the team. He has all the stuff. Obviously, he missed almost the entirety of the 2021 season recovering from Tommy John, but the fact that he was able to get back to a major league mound in 12 months post-surgery and see just the limited success because he only had about 2 appearances last year, but then be able to build off that throughout the offseason. He threw a live BP today, and he looks really sharp. I think the Cardinals and both the Cardinals and Dakota Hudson expect him to play a huge part in that rotation. And it certainly is exciting to look where he left off before Tommy John. He certainly seems to be on the rise of young pitchers there, and the expectations from him haven't changed.
Yeah, Katie, I don't know if you grew up a Cardinals fan or that was your real team growing up, but Phil is a Pirates fan. I'm an Orioles fan. He's obviously been waiting since '79 for our last World Series. I've been waiting since '83, and the best, quote unquote, best fans in baseball, like they like to call themselves, have only been waiting 11 years. And here's their complaints and the grumblings of the last 11 season. You would think that it was 111 years. Do you ever feel like the expectations in St. Louis are too lofty and it is kind of an unrealistic fan base at sometimes?
You know, I can certainly understand the outside perspective there because I just think each fandom has a different culture, right? I mean, obviously, if you're a Yankees fan, your culture is different from if you are a Rockies fan, just based on the history of the club. So while it may make sense that this Cardinals fan base can overreact, when it comes to the culture of this organization and the history and the lofty expectations they've had throughout their rich, storied history, it makes sense why fans are demanding that there is a better product in 2021. It makes sense that fans are never satisfied just because that's the culture this club has instilled. So it can certainly go both ways. I do know that anytime I hear I go on the radio and say, well, it has been 12 years since the Cardinals won a World Series, I can feel the collective eye roll of 29 other fan bases, and I do understand that. But for this fan base, I think it certainly makes sense just based on what this club has done throughout its history.
Look, I give Cardinal fans a hard time for the best fans in baseball thing, but I know they're great baseball fans, and they have a franchise that's worth rooting for. I don't. The Pirates, the Pirates give up. They gave up. The Reds gave up. They've traded. They've traded everybody that seems to matter.
I know Cardinals fans are happy about that. I'm looking at the Reds and everyone that really kind of killed the Cardinals offensively last year from that Cincinnati team is gone. There's just Joey Votto left and Jonathan India. So I know Cardinals fans are happy about it. Reds fans probably feeling the same as Oakland fans right now.
But it's just it's a statement of what the organization is about. Like when you talk, one of these things that the whole lockout was about on the player side is they don't want teams to tank anymore. And then look at what happens right after the agreement is signed. Oakland trades half the team away, goes right into rebuilding mode. They were a playoff team recently. So were the Reds, for crying out loud. The Pirates are perpetually in rebuilding mode. Take your choice. The Orioles, the same thing. The Cardinals would never dream of quote unquote tanking. Never.
Never. And I think that's one thing the fans do appreciate about this organization is that tanking is never really in their vocabulary. Their bare minimum expectation is a 90-win season. And that's why I think fans expect that, because when you have a front office that publicly comes out and says, 90 wins is the bare minimum to measure good success, fans are going to respond accordingly to that.
Yeah, they are. And with a 90-win minimum and, obviously the expectations of turning it around this year and possibly making that first World Series in 12 years. How troublesome is it to look out west and see the Freddie Freeman news of him wearing the Dodger blue? I mean, is that making anybody second guess that this year is going to be this year, knowing that you're going to have to go through what was already a star-studded lineup with the Dodgers, but now adding Freddie Freeman, it almost feels like it's over before it even starts.
Yeah. I certainly think that there's daunting lineups out there. The Dodgers, the Mets. If you look at how teams are revamping, I don't want to forget about the Blue Jays. I think they're a very underrated team. But, each team is going to operate differently. And I certainly feel more for teams in the NL West than the rest of the National League. I feel for the Giants and the Padres that are going to have to go through that lineup in L.A. multiple times throughout the season. But I think it's just kind of like the beauty of baseball is anyone can beat anyone on a given day.
It's true.
That's one of the things we love about the sport.
It's that time of year as college basketball takes center stage with the tournament finally upon us. If you're looking to wager this year, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all your updated odds and info, along with great contests, including the bracket contest, where you can have a chance to take home the top prize. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Bet online, where the game starts.